what my effort is to bring out more conflict so that it becomes visible to oneself. One, if there is conflict and if it surfaced, one could see it. Now, if they are interested, if they have some kind of discrimination and seriousness, probably they can be more aware of this kind of thing that exists inside, and they can ultimately address what the system is desirous of, what it really seeking, not an idea, but that the system is interested in reducing the conflict, and the goal that one is inspired to pursue, but which has been handed down by the culture, may not be valid to that particular individual's disposition. It may actually doing a harm to that system, that I'm pursuing something which is not addressing the resolution of a core conflict in a particular system. You know?
I think most of us can relate with that.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So when I see that, I see that how the idea is playing a dominating role, which is exactly opposite to somebody who is very keen on resolving the core conflict, which brings about a healthy disposition. Healthy means overall. You know, it's we are human beings. Thinking is an extremely important, property. You know, it's like everywhere. It's there in every single human brain. It's a property. It's like claw of a tiger. So this has to be utilized, and the fact it is there, and it has certain purpose. The purpose has to be understood. You know? Like where it is, it has to be extremely useful, and in which sector it's completely useless. You know, so those understandings are important, and often I found it very interesting. I see certain things in certain faces, the way their eyes, their face, their body is responding to me. Even they are not aware of it. Responding to me is not responding to my ideas. This is a very different thing. You know, so responding to my ideas, if it is true, then I can step by step I can take them to a place where idea can go.
Right.
You know, but that's not what I'm trying to make it a point. You know, so there is something which is in us where the physical system with all its 5 senses and the derivative of that which we call is information, the sensory perceptions often can work its own way with the very structural thing that we have inside and bypass the information space altogether. You may not know something what your eyes saw and become very either agitated or felt good. You know, it may not have a direct translation into the information space, meaning that you wouldn't know why that happened, why certain...
Not like a conscious...
Yeah, it's not it didn't translate through your language
Mm-hmm.
and interpretation. So that kind of a... Since understanding has a role, because if the understanding is proper, probably it can increase the awareness, which is a kind of a small assistant to the system. It's like thought is trying to assist you to find an equilibrium. And rejecting something that has been identified as not important to itself. For example, we know probably it's still debatable to certain people that smoking may not be all that injurious, but more or less it's been identified as it's injurious to health. Now this knowledge, if it's appropriate, it can give you a helping hand to get out of that addiction. Most of the things are like that, just an awareness to give you a helping hand to find a better equilibrium for the system. What is there going to think? At that point, you are trying to exercise your brain to find out what I am saying, what is the significance, what is the meaning, and after some time you find that no, none of those things are valid. You just don't, you just gradually slow down. There's nowhere to go. Any movement in any direction is just useless. It's just exercise in futility. So that is the time, if there is an energy which is required, it begins to gain. It's like a potential energy. Like, if you take a ball and if you bring it up there, its potential energy is high. That means when you leave it, its kinetic energy is high, it goes down. Now, when there is no more this movement, the body's energy begins to gather. So it is not wasting any more energy out of futile movements. If you want to figure out something for the sake of something that is very important to you, the movement is allowed. That's why when you think, if it is absolutely necessary for you to think. Otherwise, thinking for nothing is just a waste of energy.
Yeah, but most of us can't stop it. Yeah.
Because that is how the whole agitations are going on. But if if it is identified that it's not going anywhere, gradually all the movements are become familiar movements, and which is going to take you to the blind alley. Suppose you start thinking about a fiction, what happened to you in your childhood. If you are aware that it's an exercise in futility, that itself, even before it starts, it begins to nip in the bud, because nobody is giving you energy to cuddle the, what do you call?
Chew the
cuddle, and then that's what you do. You waste your energy.
Yeah.
But the body is actually wasting those energy. Their energy is there maybe to repair much deeper circuitry in the neurobiological chemistry. Some deeper cleaning means something that is there, which is whenever some deep disturbance comes, they come out, which is like, they call it like your deeper aspect of the personality, but actually it's not personality. They are developed out of your conditioned response. So those conditions, if it is somehow being absorbed or clean or vanishes, even your personality begins to change, because those are the conditioned response that makes it look like you have acquired a personality.
Right.
If those impressions are not there, you will begin to function in a different way, like your whole personality is going to change. That is what it wants. It wants to create something where it is best for itself. Anything, if you have a really good system with all your you won't eat any wrong food because you will not have appetite for those things anymore. You know, even if before it comes, earlier maybe it was just such a demanding thing like it. For me, you know, I know personally, you know, I used to smoke, I used to drink. The body didn't accept those things anymore. Somehow it's been identified as as many propositions that I used to throw as a daydreamer, it's been all nipped in the bud. So if you have all these things are gone, you are left with so little problem territory that you go, that you are very vital.
But the mind always finds something else, it grabs something else.
So what it will grab? That what you need to reflect. Say you are a writer, you need to reflect on your skill. We all live in a knowledge-based, skill-based society where you have to be good in particular sector. So use your energy, hone your energy to increase the efficiency towards that direction, which will actually, that's the reason the whole thinking process is developed in human being, because it should give you a helping hand to overcome your problem, to understand little more about what are the steps that is important for you to keep you a little safe. You know, get a little food, get a little house where your danger is less. All these things came out of this faculty. So it should be always giving you to an individual helping hand. Instead, what happened is, it is now so much that you can't, it becomes burden. It's like a decorative piece has become burden to you. You know, you got used to so much, but you didn't realize certain point it tipped the balance and it's become burden. So those things, they are movements. You know, thinking means it's a movement. If those movements are always for a reason, if those reasons are being marked as invalid, the movement will subside.
But it seems like it's infinite. It just one goes, the other comes. One goes, the other comes. You know? It's just
But they are
endless.
basically similar.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
There's no way to stop it.
And that is what happens is when you find yourself alone. But here there is some energy which has been already killed. The body is a signature of something that is constantly expressing that nature, and your system is somehow sensing that.
Yes.
And is not allowing you to, like, if I see people when they focus, somehow they can't think anymore, but because what is there to think? I am telling you, there is nothing to understand. What you need to understand is, if you are a writer, you need to understand those things. You have to enhance your vocabulary, you have to see how beautifully you can express yourself. These are all trial and error. Some people becomes much more efficient in that trial and error, and some people is less. That's the way. Not all birds or animals run at the same speed. Every human has its innate speeds, height, strength, power, everything different, you know, within a certain range. So you do your trial and error and find your best for yourself.
But some people find kind of their mind comes to a stop when they're in certain energy.
Not stop. It's like you can't think at that moment anything. So there is a temporary respite. And what I'm saying is that temporary respite has a beneficial effect on the physical system, because the physical system, whether you accept it or not, as far as I am concerned, it does want that kind of situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It wants the restfulness. It wants to conserve all its energy so that tomorrow, when you need to spend this energy, you will be there at your best. That's the purpose of the whole thing. But it's like, how can you be functional in the morning if you don't have a good night's sleep? Your body didn't do its job that it is supposed to be doing because of certain other defects and disorderly conduct, or the mind has some anxiety or problem or some such things. It wants a healthy disposition. It wants to throw out everything. It's like food. You ate something that didn't suit. The body is working at its best to take care of it, either to throw the junk or to digest it or something. That's its nature. And our thinking is not outside that. It may be very different, but the overall organization is very similar. It has to be for itself, for its best benefit, and we are all part of nature. So balance with nature is one of the most important aspects of individual, group, and everything. With the nature, I mean, we need air, we need water, we need to have a very harmonious balance with nature. Whether you believe it or not, that's the way the whole thing is functioning. 99% of it is functioning that way. There is nothing you can do about it.
But how come some people start resonating or affecting, seeing these changes?
Yeah,
Some
so
don't?
that is what I think that that's the aspect which is not generalized. Like, there is a problem in me. Somehow, if the problem is disturbing me for some time, and I'm unable to find a solution, or didn't understand what the problem is, and suddenly I am exposed to a situation where the whole environment is such that it is addressing the solution of that kind of problem. So somehow I may be very attracted towards that situation. Okay? Now, of course, often there are attractions which need not necessarily be addressing the well-being or a resolution of the problem. You know, there are always attraction towards pleasurable and happy disposition. Happiness is a very shallow word in that regard. More like pleasurable disposition. That everything that is pleasurable is not addressing the true well-being of the system. You know. But our constructions is such that it always in the beginning wants to find itself where it is, the sensations are acceptable, and that sensation which produces harmful effect, they are trying to be avoiding those sensations. Like somebody is harming you, or somebody is trying to give you some solace. You know, one is accepted, the other one is not. You know, so. But there are a lot more than that, you know. So
I think when people initially come, there's a mishmash of everything.
And
Because
there is a
question,
confusion.
there's doubt, there's yearning, there's all those things.
All those
but
things
still
are there.
Beyond that, despite all that.
Exactly.
in
This
spite
is
of
what
all that,
this is. Yeah.
starts
Despite
somehow.
that, yeah, that is the most important aspect. And since that aspect is in my awareness, because I work very hard on those things, I found myself in a place where it was very important for me to distinguish between what I called is the response which has come to me out of the social conditioning, and there are response which is beyond the social conditioning. Like, what is the response of social conditioning? Say, I am looking at somebody who, according to my social conditioning, he or she looks beautiful. Okay? I'm responding to that. Whether that person has a beneficial effect on me or not, this response doesn't understand that, right? So when I'm talking to somebody, the meaning, what is being accepted by the other person, it can have two components. In one, to the other person, it may look like that what I am saying is beneficial to it, has a lot of hope, a lot of promise, and things like that. These are all social conditioning. Okay? So that means I may cause some kind of interesting response out of this understanding towards him. Okay? But there could be something else that is going to bypass this understanding. Okay? So now my aim is to somehow filter out the response which came out of social conditioning. Okay? Somehow if I can negate those things, and still if I find that it represents something that is still makes you feel that it has some beneficial effect, then you begin to address something much deeper than just a resonance out of the social conflict. And that is what I began to discover when I was interacting with Yuji. Because I'm a thoughtful person in a sense that was my training. Everybody has a different training. Like if you are a musician, you are trained to hear accurately the difference between tones and frequencies and repeat them exactly the way your teacher or what you are hearing inside you, and then reproduce it, and then you become better and better and better. So that's your training. My training was trying to understand the movements that occurs in nature through causal connections, right? Like I create a model and try to attribute those models and try to see the causal connections that occurs falls into the attributes that I put towards my model, So that is how I am training. So I always train to reflect back and find causal connections, how the world works. So anything is beneficial to me or not, or why am I attracted towards somebody or not, all these things, since I'm a thoughtful individual, I try to understand why I like what I like. It is very difficult to understand that, but normally, like when you go to a teacher, you immediately find out that his explanation, his take, his understanding is so deep and nice, and you want to learn that subject, so you begin to like him, right? That's your causal connection. You want to understand, and he explains you everything very nicely, and you begin to like him because that's what you want. But my thought and reflection, they were not finding the causal connection for my attraction towards Yuji. unless I put some mythical connection. Okay, he's a godlike figure or something like that, he solves all the problem. No, I'm not going to accept that, because that is not what I saw. You see, there was nothing. He said so many things, it didn't come correct. So, and I discovered that that's the way things are. There is no such thing as somebody knows future of everything and everybody. That's not how it works. You know, you may be gullible to accept such things, then you will fall definitely, because that is how it's not work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's not like that, you know. So I begin to reject all these things that was a attraction due to the social conditioning, you know. And I think I wrote some of my analysis also in 14 Days in Palm Springs, you know, like I was very happy, and I wanted to find out why I was so happy. So obviously the reason was, like, I found a person whom I attributed a lot of divine qualities. That is a social conditioning. That increased my happiness. But the moment I begin to expect out of that something which was not coming through, I begin to doubt, right? And which is true. Because why that doubt came? Because I was giving a false conditional attribute to something that I didn't know. I just accepted from the social conditioning. If somebody has that divine quality, he will have such outputs, which was all false. Somebody taught me. There was no real, there is no reality as such in those things. So then, as soon as that didn't, so my doubt started. When something works, I feel happy. When something, so my happiness was, oh, I found, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling light. Some energy is just beating inside me, not allowing me to think all these things anymore. So I feel lighter and lighter, because the anxieties are gone. Because anxiety always comes through critical thinking, you know, thinking. So since I couldn't think at that time, I feel lighter and lighter, as if I don't have a head, you know. And I wanted to understand. So my feeling lighter and feeling happy are two different things. Feeling happy was when I was attributing a divine quality, and he was very close to me and great friend, you know, moving hand in hand, and that is what I call, maybe that together create what you call is ananda, like bliss, you know. Otherwise there is no bliss, you know. It's simply the falling off of the problems and anxieties has a different kind of lightness in being inside you, and joy that comes out of a matching. Like, I got lottery, I have a friend who has lots of money, I have a beautiful girl, I have a lot of enjoyment, and somebody who is so powerful, who can magically vanish all my problems, you know. All these things can give you joy. So still, the happiness and extreme joy is causally connected by my conditioning. If those things are not there, if still I feel something, that is outside the social conditioning. And that is what I begin to discover. Then what happened is, all my tendency to put this mystical and mystifying attributes were not coming forth. I was even becoming much more, because the causal connection, since it is not coming, the resonance become better and better. You see, you can call it love or whatever, but it was not that. The love that we know is a very different thing. There is a very systematic expectation of give and take in all our sense of love. You know, whether I am enjoying your company or not is also a product of our thinking, you know. But even outside of that, if there is a disposition which gives you energy, which makes you feel lighter, which makes you feel like in your elements, is outside of the social. You may not understand that, but understanding has nothing to do with it. That's the whole point. It's very phenomenal. It has a complete qualitative aspect which may not be deciphered by our understanding brain through quantitative analysis. It's not required. Like the eye is seeing, in that there is no understanding of the movements of neuron. It's doing its job anyway. So my feeling those things which I was unable to decipher through my reflection and causal connections, where it looks like two different aspects altogether, and one doesn't have to do anything to other. It's like, I know why I am sad, I know why I am anxious, everything, but knowing all these things does not take away my anxiety or sadness. Even though I don't understand the reason for my sadness and anxiety, somehow something happened to me that takes away those things. Which one is more effective as far as I am concerned? Right? That is how I used to find myself. So then I begin to put my thoughts and understanding where it is required, and I found phenomenal result. Instead of anxiety about all these things, in few hours I put it in physics, I get 5 times output. Another time I'm just free, because I know that my thinking has no connection to find a solution of my anxiety and my disposition. But nonetheless, I found where I should find myself, where I gather the energies. It's like I live in a place where most of the places are very has lots of pollution and bad chemicals. Water is not good. Somehow I found a place where it's comparatively better, and I always try to take myself there, so that I get the necessary respite and the fresh air and everything, so as my environment where I interact with people and things like that, where this kind of thing is being addressed. And that is my very personal, that's why I gave the name. It is absolutely my functional reality. There was no way I could explain it away, since I myself could not find the causal connection. There was no way I could explain it to anybody. So it became absolutely my specific, subject-specific functional reality. There is no way I can hand it over to anybody unless they themselves discover one of such things for themselves, so that they can align themselves with such situation that addresses their beneficial aspect. So that the drive to make others understand what is good for them, what is not good for them, also begin to fade away, because it's not like that. It was not at all like that. I mean, we know something that is good for you may be poison for me. We are so different. But there is an indirect aspect of it. Indirect aspect is that almost every average health human being needs certain amount of deep sleep, certain amount of food, certain amount of exercise that addresses, so certain amount of very deep, what I call is adjusting, that takes care of all the shocks that you have absorbed whole day during the waking hours, has to be really taken care of by the body, so that over the time it does not accumulate and bring you to a condition where there is no point of return. It's like I have tortured my body so much that at one point it has just crossed the threshold. No way coming back. Like that, I think there is something that every single human body wants to function certain way for itself, by itself. Over the years, I have done something that created lots of bad habits. To remove all those things, it just doesn't happen in overnight. That's only magical thinking. It can start falling at right place and begin to. It's like if you have a deep cut, it takes long time before all healing gets done.
Right.
You know, everything that is deeply affected.
There's a mechanism.
It takes time to heal.
But for some, it seems like they just immediately.
So for some, it's a matter of luck, in a sense that if this, see, for example, if there is a seed somewhere, okay, and it's deprived from appropriate light, earth, water, so somehow it suddenly finds some of it. It begins to work, right? And if suddenly these things are appropriate, it will take the fastest growth, you know.
Right.
So all these are not exactly, I'm not doing a controlled experiment. It's life.
So it's a good match also in a way.
In a way, you know, some people don't resonate, like...
so maybe some people can go somewhere else and resonate there.
Exactly. There is nothing
right.
Permanent about it. But what I am saying is that there is an aspect in all what I said you have to see. There is resonance due to the social conditioning. There is resonance due to very natural attraction. These two may compete with each other. Okay? The social conditioning, the attraction and the resonance that is due to social attraction, the attraction is caused by the social conditioning, need not necessarily address the well-being of each other. Okay? The most difficult question is, how does one separate this? Because every step of the way there is a justification process that is done through the conditioned response.
Justification for what?
For liking each other. Okay? There is always a conditioned response, you know, because we can't help but think of our actions. You can't help thinking, if you like somebody, why you are liking. It's a nature of it.
But there could be another scenario also.
Yeah.
That there's a deeper resonance when you
Yeah.
see the person is functioning at a different, free,
Yeah.
natural manner.
Yeah.
But on the personality or the worldly level or cultural level, there's a dissonance.
Yeah.
Opposite of
Sure.
resonance.
Yes,
But
dissonance. Yeah.
Dissonance.
Yeah.
And that could be a kind of a better gauge to see.
Yeah, so there it could be positive or negative depending on your personality.
Right.
There are people who are more resonated towards rebels, and there are persons who keep themselves away. Right? It's always like that. Now the question is, what is your beneficial aspect about this resonance is a very kind of intricate thing, because we are discussing. That's why if it is not necessary to discuss, then it's different thing. Since we are discussing that, so you see the part of the resonance. My question is, if say I found a place where it really is, everything about that place is somehow addresses something good about my health and disposition. Say I have a very specific disposition of my lung condition, my food habits, my digestibility of the water and things like that, in such that a particular place I found is addressing my well-being. Now, if that place happens to be beautiful, it's an added bonus, so it can help even better that way. If somebody is you are attracted towards, if your social condition is such that that person's behavior and disposition agrees in you, as you have learned to say good person. There are many times a really good means a just person's behavior may not look very good. Telling somebody on face value about their deeds, good or bad, front to front, may not appear to be a good person. So if your social condition is such that you may avoid such person, but if you somehow your social conditioning is such that you are not avoiding this person and this person is addressing something good for you, so then it's a total beneficial aspect. So thoughts and understanding and conditioning, if somehow align with it to nudge the entire system towards a place where it addresses its well-being, maybe it's all good. If it doesn't happen, then he or she has to overcome even further difficulties. Like I grew up in a Hindu, say, rituals, okay? And, I moved around the world. Suddenly I found a Muslim guy who start finding great resonance with him. Even his rituals may not be attractive towards me, because I have been brought up by some condition which already pointed out to me that these are not good. So I have to overcome even further difficulties. If that person happens to be beyond all these rituals, that it's even a better thing. So I'm not giving any example. I'm telling how this social conditioning can give you a helping hand. Sometimes it's not going to give you a helping hand. You have to overcome even further difficulties. Like if a person resonates with you and he completely renounces even God, and you are from a place where they constantly brainwashed you to believe that the only person who can help you is the one who believes in God, then it will be impossible for you to accept that person. Although that person is truly resonating something inside you which wants to function that way. You understand how this social conditioning can be completely against this resonance, and how the social conditioning sometimes can be very favorable towards this condition. So it's very random. So who is going to resonate where has no perfect equation. So somehow if this process does not allow somebody to come to his own natural habitat where he or she feels at his best in all sense of the matter, then it's too bad. Like his condition didn't allow him to accept such a situation. It's too bad. So what happened? This quarter won the battle. The social conditioning stood in the way of something that was addressing its best. That's how I feel. If somebody feels something else, that's fine with me. I have no problem about that, because I'm not telling what I'm saying is the only truth and the truth, and I'm telling about my discovery of functional reality.
Right.
That's all. But yes, we are thoughtful individuals because we have our knowledge and ability to think has given us a lot of power, and we have created, look, we have used our knowledge and we have created a semi-deterministic world, in a sense that we really know. We have discovered the laws of motions and the planetary motion so well that we can calculate what would be the planetary positions for next 100 years or more, I mean, that much deterministic. So that gives us the power to figure out things. And with that power, if we use that sense of power and allow our system to not align itself with what is best for itself, it's too bad as far as I'm concerned. So the power of thinking and ability to figure out things, if it stands on the way of bringing oneself to a situation what addresses is best, is to me, it's a kind of sad situation. That's all I can say. If that power allows one to bring to a place where it addresses his well-being, it's well and good. But it can happen either. It can happen both ways.
Because I feel this, in spite of all that confusion, and as you said, that battle between what's good for the system
and
this
what is acceptable by the social structure,
conditioning.
Yeah.
Despite all this struggle and subtleties which we are not consciously aware,
Yeah.
despite that, somehow that interaction creates a door, an opening,
Yeah.
that the that wisdom, let's say, if I may use a word,
Yeah.
of moving in the direction of what's good for the body, mind, or for the
Total integrated form.
that kind of shines forth. That
Yeah.
kind of takes over.
So that is a very good, I call it the inductive logic. That's helpful, So that leads you to what the background of this assumption. The background of this assumption is, if I may say, that this system knows its well-being. Given a chance, it has all its understanding about how to place itself when it addresses its true well-being. That's it. Why do I say that? Because when you really sleep well, the body is doing all the job. It's digesting all the food, it's clearing up all this pent up anger, everything it's just working out to resolve itself. So that is its, what I call this unconscious ability. And the more it gets this kind of space, I feel it addresses its well-being best. So even if you don't understand, even if your conscious brain cannot find out exact causal connections of how things are working inside and what you should do, what you shouldn't do, looks like the negation of the entire conscious activity is somehow It's not bad. That's what I mean. Means it's allowing the system to do its job best during such time. That's the only thing that the thought can get a respite of by what I call is positive thinking, in a sense that at least you know that you are, by not doing anything, you are still allowing the system to work. But not doing anything means you cannot live a life all the time not doing anything. We have created a society where we have no way out. We have to do things as it demands. Where we have to, where we shouldn't, that is an individual understanding that comes out of more and more of this solidity of the disposition. Like you see, the moment this anxious thinking comes, you know that it's an exercise in futility. And soon enough you will see that it's not doing anything anymore. You know that your active participation of a thought process is the way it gets energy from you. If somehow it has been identified as a futile exercise, it begins to nip in the bud. I could not go to moon. Maybe when I was young, I was very sad about it, but soon enough, these thoughts are not going to find any proposition anymore. So it's become irrelevant. So it falls off. So as my discovering God or whatever it is. All these things that was sitting heavy and just hitting the head towards the rocks and bleeding my head, the rocks never broke. So it many things that couldn't be handled out of thinking and these things just by itself becomes irrelevant. It became irrelevant. So did I do it? I don't think I did it. It's not like that. It's somehow out of that irrelevancy, the physical system gained certain energy and changed the whole thing in a way that it just never gives the ground anymore to the interloper to create a structure of thought that can be sitting and dictating the show anymore. Because anything more than that is, and there is a pitfall, I just want to tell you, because I'm always very reflective about my resistance toward the invasion of ideas and how the narcissistic attitude of one's own imposition of ideas, it may look very similar. That is one of the things that I was very closely trying to discover and monitor when I was with Eugene. This aspect was always bothering me. Because narcissistic confidence, and a confidence which comes from a defending itself from others being invading onto them. You see, the narcissists are also very persuasive, strong, imposing. But the person who is defending itself for its stability and solidity, also may look extremely strong and authoritative. But they are fundamentally different.
What is the difference?
The difference is narcissists always try to impose, because they are convinced by certain things and they are not satisfied that it has to be expressed, that confidence, by imposing its ideas on somebody else.
And this self-worth and self-image is dependent on how the
Others are looking at it. And when that is independent of how others look at it, then it becomes solid by itself, like a tree, 1,000 years standing in one place. It just doesn't care how anybody says it's a good tree or a bad tree. It's solid, confident, self-expressing by itself for itself.
So did you always monitor that narcissistic aspect, if it is there or not?
No, monitor means trying to understand. You will always find it very strange. If you have a company with a narcissistic personality disorder, then you will begin to understand what is called pressure. But you also understand that when your whims and your ideas are not accepted by somebody else, that's also a pressure, but they are fundamentally different. One is trying to protect its integrity, the other is trying to impose itself on everybody.